Welcome to Kingdomize, the podcast, where we discuss how to see our lives and our world through a kingdom lens, how to infuse kingdom culture into our families, our workplaces, and our cities, as we all participate in the dream of Jesus to see his kingdom on earth as it is in heaven. So welcome back to Kingdomize, the podcast. We are in our Solutionaries series. You know, we felt like this was going to be a week or two or a month or two or whatever. And now we just think maybe a year or two or a decade or two, because we just keep coming up on great stories of amazing people. And so, yeah, we're talking about solutionaries. We're talking about people that aren't just thinking about the kingdom and not just talking about it, but actually bringing real kingdom answers to real world problems. And our solutionary today is exactly this. His name's Dave. He's a business guy. He's a teacher. He's a trainer. He's a coach. He's a scaler of businesses. And his story will be amazing. You'll be so inspired to dream bigger with God. And that's what he wants. That's what we want today from you, for you to hear what God can do with just simple humans like us, just ordinary people hoping to do extraordinary things. So it's Solutionaries. We are, in fact, intentionally looking at Matthew chapter 28, where it says, go and disciple nations. Yeah, we want people saved. Mark 16 talks about save individuals for sure. But we intentionally want to see, what does it look like if we could disciple a nation? What would it look like if we could disciple an industry, let's say business or the church or government? Could we actually bring kingdom principles that have real world solutions? We think it can. Wow. And so that's what we're doing. So Dave Bess is with us. Ian, I'm going to throw to you, our friend Ian Green. You guys go back like 20, 30, 40, 400,
way back.
400 or 500 years. Tell us just a bit of the story before we get into Dave's story. Like, how do you guys know each other, and why are we sitting here together with you and Dave? What's going on?
Ian, why are we sitting here?
Yeah, so look, we go back almost 40 years. So many years ago in the UK, I ran a program called ACEM's Active Christian Evangelism. Dave was one of the delegates on that training program, a 1-year training program. As a part of that, he came and lived in my home for 3 or 4 weeks. Where I lived then in the West Midlands, we had some amazing Balti houses, Indian food, for those who don't know. And it was a Mr. Dave's, and there was no cutlery. You could only eat the food with the bread or with your hands. It was quite the experience, but the food was anyway. I think I converted Dave to Balti food after that.
You ruined me.
And so we had, after he graduated, he went off and did a whole bunch of stuff, church planted him wherever. But probably about a year ago, I don't know how it was, but somewhere on social media, we reconnected again, and just felt I needed to chase him down, and discovered, wow, what had happened in the last 38 years was quite incredible. How what he has built, how God has used him, his learning, his experience. I thought, my gosh, this is a candidate for Kingdomize. And so he's already Kingdomized, but he would be a phenomenal candidate for Kingdomize. And so we chatted back and forth, and then we decided, hey, maybe we can do something together. So this is one of the things that we are doing. We got other things coming on the track, which we'll probably tell you at the end of this podcast. But at the moment, this is one of the things, because there's been a reigniting of our friendship over the last 8 or 9 months, and it's been just an absolute pleasure just to reconnect with Dave. And I know that as you listen to him and as he shares his story, you're going to be blessed, inspired, and encouraged. I'm all of that as well, and so I'm very happy to introduce my friend Dave Bess to you today.
Wow, what an introduction.
It's all true.
Man, I have to tell you, I was so surprised when your name popped up on my Facebook feed. It was like, my past is catching up on me. Oh my goodness. And I have to say, I was like a little skeptical. Like, what is this guy want? And so we had some good chats. We were like, sounding, and yeah, I have to say, there's as doors open, right? All my life, there's been these moments where I just felt a door open, and you reached out. And I was saying to Brian the other day, there's a door that's open, and I have no idea what it's leading to, but I'm so excited to be here today, and hugely grateful to you, Ian, for listening to God and stepping out. And you did pursue me, I have to say. I ignored you for a little while.
So some of our listeners, you'll know Dave. Dave's already done 2 master classes with us, Scaling Your Business 1 and 2. And as Ian just said, I'm not going to say this. I'm going to get it out now, and we'll talk about it at the end. We're presently setting up for the Scaling Your Business course, which runs from March into mid-April of this year. So if you're hearing this in February of 2026, you have time to register. We'll give you the link when we send this out. But Dave, you've been so well received by our community. We had to have you in to get more of your story, to go deeper on who you are, what you do, and why. So take us back as far as you want to go, to salvation moment, family upbringing, into church world, into nonprofit world, into business world. We know that you've been incredibly successful in all of those things. So just take us wherever you want to go.
Wow, amazing. It's a joy just to be able to talk to you guys. It really is. All right, let's do this journey. So my parents were missionaries, higher evangelistic mission, and with AOG. And so I was born on the mission field, and I was there for 3 years. When I was 3, the political stability wasn't good. It's something, and as a result, my parents came back to the UK, and I grew up in a little town called Tiverton, like that, in Devon. And I used to speak like that, like proper. So I grew up there in a little AOG church, and I quickly learned to play the piano and started leading worship from an early age, about 10 or 11. The pastor was really gracious, used to let me play the Elam choruses at the beginning of the meeting and all those kind of good things. Started a rock band at 15 called the New Life Band, and tried to win the whole of Tiverton for Jesus with his band. We were awful, by the way. Anyway, so, I guess from an early age, I've always been an activist. My parents are missionaries. I'd always kind of felt a call to changing, stirring stuff up. And so, right from an early age, I've been involved in doing things. I felt this need to do things. My parents used to run Bible messages in their home and praying for people. So, I grew up, with my parents casting demons out and speaking in tongues and all of this wild. My house was wild. It was just a wild place. So it was only natural after I left school at 16 because I hated school. I went and did 2.5 years at college studying electrical engineering because my mom said, you need to go and get a trade, because I think she's hoping I was going to be a missionary, right? So she go and be a trade, become an electrician, she said, and then you'll always have a job. It was great advice. So I went to college and was able to do an OND and did electrical and electronics. And then, of course, as I came out the end of that, I was, what am I going to do? And this ACE team course came up, and I thought, well, let's go and do that. And so as Ian mentioned, I joined this ACE team thing, which basically was a year of your life, going around different cities, standing on street corners, telling people they needed Jesus, right? So that was the story. After that, I was in a relationship with a Welsh girl who lived outside Bridgend, and so I followed and got a job at Bridgend Ford Motor Company. Between them and Sony's, that were also in a little town called Pencoed, just outside of Bridgend, I worked in those 2 companies for 7 years as an electrical engineer. So my mum was right. You did need to do that.
Let's hear it
The
from
relationship changed. Yeah, good old mom, right? Both my parents are now in glory, but I'm sure they're listening in. That relationship changed, and I happened to, during the course of the time, meet this South African girl that was helping a church plant out that was in Bridgend. God just intervened there, and we started a relationship up and ended up getting married. Long story short, got married to her. She came back. We lived in Wales together for 18 months. And we both felt that God was calling us to go back to South Africa. So I went to South Africa. This is 1996. 95. I got introduced to a charismatic movement at the time called New Covenant Ministries, and they had this vision to plant churches around the world. I'd never really heard about church planting at the time, and I just thought, I'll give that a go. Why not? We could do that. So I put my hand up, and they said, where do you want to go? I said, well, let's go to the UK. I know the UK. Let's go do that. So we're already in South Africa 18 months, went on a church planting training kind of a boot camp, and then came back in 1996 to a place called Crawley, which I've never even heard of. It's by Gatwick Airport. And so literally it was myself and 6 others that I managed to cajole to also come and follow. And we started. Literally, we just rented a hall and it started. And the church grew amazingly. The first year we grew to 30. Second year we were over 100. It kind of just grew exponentially. Like I had a newborn baby then, a 10-day-old baby when we started that church. So it wasn't a great time. So that church was called Gateway Church International, and we called it Gateway because we wanted it to be a gateway for us to really reach the nations. So the nations are always on my heart. So we were involved in that church from 1996 into 2004, 2003, 2004. And it was during that time, just 2001, something really amazing happened in my life. I was telling the story briefly in our webinar. The church had grown, and there were a number of places where we had scaled. I'm using the word scaling now. In that time, I don't know what we've used. There's about 100 people, and I'm in my car, and on the corner of the main street in Crawley was the old bingo hall, Gala Bingo Hall. And it had been sat empty for a while. Massive place, 1,000-seater downstairs, 500-seater upstairs, 2 bars and a dancing hall. So I felt God just said to me, how about it, bud? I thought, why not? So we walked into the bingo hall, and it was weird because there were literally still glasses with beer on the bars. I mean, it was just like people just walked out, switched the lights off. It would smell of musty. It was amazing. I was so excited. There was a dance floor, running dance floor. Do you know how excited I was? So we kept the dance floor, we kept both bars, and we made a deal. We said to the guys, they wanted £90,000 a month. We said we've only got 6. We settled on £10,000 a month.
Wow.
We moved in with 100 people, and within 18 months, the church was at 350 or so.
Wow.
And it was amazing. We kept the dance floor. Did I tell you that? And it was wild days. We just blasted music and the bars until we opened the bars at the end. 2 bars. One was coffee bar and the other one was other stuff, and we blasted music. We were mad. The church was known for being mad. We had stage diving when stage diving wasn't even a thing. It was just brilliant. It was just total chaos, and we loved it. I look back at those days, some of the best times of my life. But I realized God rested me on a Thursday afternoon. Imagine I set the stage up, the band was all there, the coffee was all good, everything was perfect scene, and God just dropped this question in my heart: what's the fruit of an apple? And as clear as day, I realized it wasn't an apple. And God said to me, why are you so fixated about how big this tree is? Because to be honest with you, my ego was huge. I was, the place of success. I was young. People were now coming to the church to hear what's going on. And I was very, very full of myself, if we look back at it. And I was really transfixed on how many people turned up. How much money did we make? Are we growing? The key metrics of, is this tree getting bigger? And then God said to me, it is not about the tree. It's about the orchard. How the fruit of an apple tree is not the size of the tree or the apple. The fruit of the apple tree is the orchard. And it just transformed me, and realized in Genesis 1:28 says that God said, reproduce and multiply and fill the earth, and then bring that kingdom of heaven to the earth. How do you subdue the earth? Not by having one big tree, but by reproducing lots and lots and lots of disciples. I mean, Matthew 28, suddenly when you see it, you can't unsee it, that the entire Bible was not about any one person becoming big, but every one person reproducing themselves. And then Dawn came along, a thing called Disciple the Whole Nation. I loved it. I got involved in the Dawn in 2000, called Dawn 2000. Now, some of you might remember it. And they started doing the stats, how much it was costing to get one person saved in the church. And it was ridiculous. It was like £25,000. There wasn't enough money in the UK economy to get the whole nation saved. But if you looked at a reproducing model where it wasn't about churches, coffee shops, and fancy cars, but it was about just discipleship model, you could do this almost at no money. Suddenly I realized that the way that we bring heaven to earth was by reproducing ourselves. And that means dying to self, being a servant leader. And suddenly everything started to make sense. I was like, oh yeah, we can do this. And so during that time, we planted a number of churches out. Because it was the thing to do, right? In a place called Hawley, we planted a church in Reading, we planted one in Brighton. So these churches were autonomous churches and they were growing. But I really felt like I couldn't be in this model anymore. I felt like what I created was great, and it was nothing wrong with it. It was created, but it no longer resonated with the truth that I was now really arrested, and that I needed to go start and do a new thing. So I went down the road and tried to do a new thing. And what happened was I ended up building exactly the same thing as the before. Because although I had all the right ideas, I hadn't changed this yet. And you reproduce who you are, not what you say you are.
Right, 100%.
So after doing that for 2 years, I just said, I can't do church planting any longer, because all I'm going to do is attract people to me instead of build away from me. This is not working. So also, I was now 13 years into ministry, and I was tired. And so my wife said, I think we need to go to South Africa. So we handed over the church and we left for South Africa. She said to me, Dave, on one condition: you're not allowed to start a church, start a business, start a charity. You got to go and get a proper job, 9 to 5. You go to work, you come home, and we be a family for 18 months. That's the deal. So I got a job and back to electrical. My mom was right. And I went back and did an electrical job. But whilst I was doing the job, I saw this opportunity for a great business. I really did my best to hold on. I really did. And so I said, God, if this is you, then you need to bring the right people into my life, and you need to bring the money. Because the three things you need for any business or church is people, the vision, and the money. You need all three. Almost 18 months to the day, I bumped into a guy that I'd done church planters with all those years ago, 15, 16 years ago, by accident in a meeting. He sat next to me. He goes, and we had coffee, and I told him about his crazy idea. He was an accountant, went away, woke me up at 6 a.m. and said, Dave, we've got to do this business. This is a commercial, this is a mega business. We met. He said, I've got 2 investors gagging for a great business. Come and pitch it. We pitched it a week later. Remember, it's just for Christmas. They kept us waiting the whole of Christmas. They phoned us 12th of January and said, we'll give you your first investment when you want to start. And we started this company called Energy Drive. So I started a number of companies in the ministry. Always when I was in the ministry, I always ran another company on the side. I just found that healthy. So I started a training company, an electrical company, a management company, consulting company, a food company at various times, because I didn't want my salary to be totally reliant on the church. I always wanted to have some autonomy. Anyway, we started this company called Energy Drive, and basically it was a way of optimizing energy in very large energy-hungry industries. But here's the thing. The principle, what dawned on me was these principles that I was tapping into to start churches successfully and scale churches were kingdom principles. And if they're kingdom principles, then that means they will work in a business, in a home, in a family, in a charity. They'll work anywhere, right? Because they're principles. That's the thing about a principle. A principle will work everywhere, right? Except for gravity that only works on Earth. But anyway, so, I just thought, what about if we start this business completely on kingdom principles? So 80-20 rule. We live on 80% of the money. We give 10% away. We invest 10. What about if we start with servant leadership? What about if we start by trying to build away from ourselves as founders right from the beginning? What about if we seek to build a business that is transformative for the community that it's in, not just for and so on and so forth? Fast forward, we started a business with just an idea, first investment round. 12 years later, we have over 100 employees, 1,000 if you look at the global footprint, 17 countries. And the company was valued when I sold them. Of course, my share of the business went from high to quite low, because every time you do a funding round, you have to dilute your share options, etc. But that business sold at over $60 million. And the value of the business now is over $100 million and going up.
Beautiful.
The business is just expanding.
Beautiful.
But it was built on kingdom principles. And I really believe that if you trust the principle, risky doesn't feel risky. Things work, right? So what am I? I'm 56 now. I really felt it was the right time to set up, because my strengths can only take the business so far. A vehicle can only take you so far. The terrain was changed. It didn't need a sports car type person. It needed a 4x4 person. And so I hired a CEO. I hired a CFO. I served them for 3 years before exiting. And then I exited, having done it over well. And they've just taken the company on to. And a great thing is they have to be to meet the new owners of the business and to come and reignite. We were so honored. I was so honored to be there. And again, it's just enjoyable. The retention rate has been out this roof. I mean, over 95% of the people I hired are still there, which is just amazing. Yeah, this is just, yeah, you just work on these principles, right? So what did I finally, I just said, what should I do next? And then I get me and Green phone me in. And I get, so what I do now, I lecture at the university here in Cape Town, the entrepreneur program of MBA. I'm working mentoring 18 companies at the moment that are going from founder to SME in that journey. Some are larger than others, but I'm loving mentoring and helping them. I play a blues band, which I love.
That was too quick. I play in a blues band. I just want to make sure people hear that.
I play in a blues band. Yeah,
I love that. I can see them.
There we go. I play in a blues band. You got to have Hammond organ. Blues band, right?
I didn't want to get through that too quickly because that's really important. Did mom help you with that too? Is that another mom thing? Or?
No. My parents, they're in glory now, so they can't hear me. They were terrible. They weren't musicians at all.
Really?
It was good because I picked out, I'm HAPPY when I was 4, apparently, on a piano. And so she whipped me off to piano lessons, which I hated. But I attribute my pastor, a guy called Pastor Locke, old Scottish guy. And he defied the elders who defied them and said, I shall have that boy play. And so he made me play the choruses before the meeting really started. And I really want to thank him and also it's funny because in those days, people would just start a chorus up. They would just start singing a chorus. And you had to find the key that they were singing in, and the weird and wonderful keys, which is just it was a real training ground.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I guess that's my story.
That's amazing. So church background, born on the mission field. Now you said Zaire, right?
Yeah.
Congo now, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I had to look it up because I thought that was right. So born on the mission field, missionary, engineer, schooling, pastor, business guy, musician.
Also, I worked for a charity one day a week, I forgot to tell you that, called Ladles of Love. And they put an unashamed plug there. We feed 10,000 children every day here in Cape Town.
Yeah.
So the 0 to 5-year-olds who are in what we call early learning development centers. And we give them a nutritious meal. And we also have a big soup kitchen in the middle of town where we feed between 500 and 600 meals a day to homeless. Both Kerry and I give a day. Every Friday we work in that charity. So I'm basically COO of that charity now and just loving being in there.
I love that. Like you are hitting so many different areas through your life. And we talk about the different spheres, business, education, government, the church. And it seems like you're getting this. Like we're not really, Ian's like, I'm going to go Kingdomize this guy. It's like, well, you're already out there doing it. So one of the things you've said, Dave, one of the things you've said to us a number of times, like, man, I love it. I feel like I found my tribe. It's like you guys actually believe this stuff. So for us, let's talk about Reformation. Okay, we want to think about what the kingdom is, or even rethink. We want to restore maybe what Jesus said. Let's get there, but then we get to the place of what we call Reformation. What we talk about is like, so this should affect the world somehow. This shouldn't just be one day we're going to glory, we're going to get saved, and we go to heaven. There is something about bringing heaven to earth. And you seem to believe that as well. Why do you believe that? Like, what are you seeing? And when did that change for you? Or if it did, like, so a lot of us, when we tell our stories, Dave, it's like, I'm going this way, and then I'm going, oh, that doesn't seem like the Bible. It seems like they're everywhere. Like, was there a moment like that for you? Or
yeah.
is that the
I grew up
orchard story?
Well, it is. I mean, I grew up in escapist theology. Just hold on tight. Grin and bear it, and you'll get out of this mess, right? That was the messaging I was taught. And yet it never resonated with the Gospels of Jesus, the accounts of Jesus. It never resonated. Everything Jesus was trying to do was to reveal the Father, which was basically the kingdom as it is in heaven to be on earth. I mean, we say that all the time, but it was like this all the time. We just can't wait for, to die and go to heaven. And that was never good enough for me. That was never a good enough answer. And so the reason I wanted to plant churches wasn't just to fill bus loads of people and plunder hell and populate heaven, or whatever we used to say in those days. I genuinely believe that the greatest answer to transforming the world was people being filled with the love of God and demonstrating it. How better way to do that was to collect them and inspire them and tell them to get on with it, So I have always really believed that message, I guess. But the fruit of the apple tree gave me the mechanism of how to do that. Starting a single church. I mean, there are very few success stories around the world right now. Very few success stories of one thing changing a lot of things. The greatest success stories that I can see are when people multiply things. The kingdom is supposed to be something that's countercultural. It's supposed to come underneath and get into the ground and change it from the ground up. It's not supposed to come with a big trumpet and a big band and, in my world, it's supposed to be like that. And I love your word. I'm going to pick on it. The word reformation, because I'm not a revivalist. I don't want to revive what we were doing. I want to kill what we're doing, and I want to go back. I want to reform what we're doing back to the real paradigm. Reformation is a paradigm shift in my world, right?
So, Dave, let me just push in there, because obviously I am very conversant with the world that you left in terms of that Assemblies of God, escapism, the rapture, Jesus, don't do anything serious because Jesus is coming soon, blah, blah, blah. I know the group that you kind of engaged with in South Africa, they would be very much kingdom people, right? They would be thinking, and shape, maybe giving you language, maybe like for all of us, right? We had feelings, we had no language because no one was actually saying anything, right? And the moment someone gave us language, that put fuel in our tanks. That's what I need. That's
exactly.
Was it something like that for you?
That is beautiful. Language is what transforms people, right? Something's not right, but you can't articulate it. And it's frustrating, right? Yeah. And what started to happen, certainly in the beginning of 2000s for me, was I started to gain language for this thing. And once you see something, you can't unsee it, right?
Yeah. Totally.
Yeah, I mean, there were times, let me be honest, there were times where I prayed to God for me to unsee stuff, because actually running church the way I was a whole heap easier. You just tell people, do this, you buy this, and you go and do that. It's really easy, right? But your effectiveness was compromised. We always compromised effectiveness for efficiency. It's efficient to preach one sermon every week to 1,000 people, but it's not effective in transforming the world.
Yeah.
And so I decided to not trade effectiveness for efficiency. Ian, I can't tell you, that's why I said you're my tribe, because when I start hearing about how do we turn a church car park into something useful for the other 6 days of the week, I'm like, yes, let's do that. And so, but anyway, before I get run away and say things I shouldn't say.
No, that's really good. That's really good, Dave. I think, none of us are the finished product, are we? None of us are the finished product. And we're still not finished yet. So we've got the opening.
Absolutely.
Our understanding is broader than probably it was before, even language, I was speaking to someone the other day. I says, this year I will have been 50 years in ministry. But what you think is I've been a pastor or a preacher for 50 years. Actually, I've been a businessman for the last 20 years, and that was ministry too. So,
100%.
it transforms everything. So the language transforms everything. And obviously you will have had a great pioneer, church planting, entrepreneurial, and probably levels of pastoral gift that you've now transported that
Yeah.
into your business world. Is that correct?
Absolutely. There is no such thing as, I believe, there's no such thing as sacred and secular. There's just
Right.
stuff that we do, right? My
Yeah.
gifts, they were formed and fashioned in the church, but they were just as powerful in business. In fact, more effective in business, right? Because we're tapping into the wealth of the world out there, and you can do so much more when you do that. And yeah, what I've done over the years is I've translated Christianese into businessese. And I think when we're good at that, we need to get better at that, right? At translating Christianese into businessese or normal speak. So I was amazed. You talk about Lencioni and some of these commercial psychologists or industrial psychologists. They are producing lots of books that are literally based on the one another's that we have in scripture. But we don't, because we can't translate the language into something people can grasp and understand, they remain in the Bible. And these guys are now producing these books which are transforming societies. We've got to catch up, right? We've got to be willing to change our language here. The language of what you call something doesn't change, it diminishes its power. Its power is in the principle, not in what you call it.
Right. Oh, that's good. So,
That's what I
Dave,
think.
like, where have you got some of your inspiration from?
Well, I could see this question was coming. So, and I'm probably going to give you names that have never been mentioned on this podcast before. I could give you all the Christian ones, but James Dyson is one.
Yeah.
James Dyson, 731 attempts before he managed to get the first Dyson vacuum cleaner to work. Nearly bankrupt himself twice. Read his autobiography. Absolutely incredible. A man who has a vision and grit. Nelson Mandela, what a fabulous role model of someone that went to prison, completely had a transformational experience and came out and transformed the nation. I'm living in that nation. Jung Young, the founder of Hyundai, peasant boy, grew up as a peasant boy against all of the odds. I mean, read his autobiography, slept on tables, was bitten by bed bugs, came up with plenty of loads of reasons. His company was destroyed by the government 6 times and now owns the largest company in South Korea called Hyundai. An amazing story. Akio Morita, founder of Sony, read his autobiography. But there is something godly in each of these guys. They're tapping into principles that we find in ancient wisdom, which is just amazing. And then, of course, there's people like Rob Bell, who's been really prominent in my life. I've loved his journey, not I loved everything, but loved his journey and his courage and the way he gave me language to speak, about things. And many others are growing up, Bill Hybels and Rick Warren were hugely influential in my life, in those days as well. But yeah, so those are some of them, some of the leaders that I love.
You mentioned has biographies been a big thing for you, Dave, in terms of giving you fuel for life or giving you idea? Like you've mentioned 2 or 3 biographies there. It's like, is biographies been the stable meat for you in terms of your life's journey?
Yeah. Yes. I don't like reading fiction. I'm not good with fiction. People are spend their entire life banging their head against walls and learning and figuring stuff out. We're going to be idiots if we don't read their stories and learn from them so that we don't have to make the same mistakes, right?
Yeah.
So why wouldn't you want to read autobiographies? Of course, grown up in the Bible, grown up in the teachings of Jesus, those are grounded in you. Okay, they form the bedrock, and they also form the filter by which you can then read. You can read widely if you have a good filter. And so, I'm not afraid to read widely because I have a good filter in which to look at it, make sense of the world.
Cool.
Yeah. So to read, by the way, little shameless plug here, there's a podcast called Founders, and it's brilliant. This guy just reads autobiographies of successful businessmen, and he just unpacks it for you, and he's brilliant. It's called Founders. There you go.
Wow, great. Thank you.
Excellent.
Thank you.
You mentioned people that we wouldn't have had on or talked about on our podcast before. You'll be surprised to know that 17 different people mentioned Chung Ju Young. You'll be surprised by that. I made that up. It's not true.
Really?
No, it's not true. I made it.
Well, there you go.
No, you were right.
There you go.
You are the first, and unless you had told me about Hyundai, I would have not known it. Amazing. You connected those men or those people with these guys are changing an industry. They're changing in the world because of their tenacity and courage. I want to come back to Reformation because that's what I always want to do. So is it Is it true, or would you say that their story inspired you to do something courageous yourself that wasn't just church as normal? Like, so in the session we did, the masterclass we did, you talked about the standard metrics of church of bums, bucks, and baptisms, right? So it's different in the real world, though. The real metrics in the real world are different. Is that fair? So put those together for me if you can.
No, the problem is that we're using the wrong metrics to gauge. We're using growth metrics, not health metrics. And that was always the problem. We thought that we were doing a good job because we had bums, butts, and baptisms. But actually, the real goal was, are we transforming the world around us? If the church ceased to exist today, who would notice? That should be the answer, right? Who's noticing? Are the poor, are the hungry being fed, and are naked being clothed? And is the local government asking us our opinion? Those are the metrics that we should be paying attention to, right? And it's the same in business. Business again pays too much attention on growth metrics and not enough on health metrics. The reason I like some of the guys I mentioned is because they were fastidious about health metrics, not growth metrics. For instance, in Sony, the reason go in any Sony, they all wear the same uniform. Why? Because they realized that the people couldn't afford clothes. So they made clothes for everyone. They became someone that clothed all of the people. Also, everyone that worked for Marius in Sony's was given a home, was given food allowances. He dealt with poverty. He dealt with sicknesses. So he was not about becoming Sony. He was about transforming his workforce. That's Kingdomize right there, right?
Yeah, totally. Absolutely. Wow,
as you unpack these things, they're not about Sony. They're about what they did for the people within Sony, which was him. And the same with the other guys. James Dyson, he loves actively employs people who do not have an education and that would not get a job, because he believes he can transform them within the context of the Dyson factory. It's kingdom again. It's kingdom.
Yeah, really good. Growth versus health. And I would say, from what I heard you say, if we concentrate on health, you get growth, not necessarily the other way. Is that fair?
Automatic, you don't buy a car to look at the exhaust. You buy a car to drive somewhere. The exhaust comes to free. Someone says when you buy a shoe, the tongues come with it. But anyway.
So Dave, we're almost done, almost out of time, but we love asking people if they are into Reformation, if they do see the kingdom bigger than what happens on a Sunday, if they do see sacredness played out all over. So why are you optimistic about the future? Or are you optimistic? And if you are, why are you optimistic?
Okay, I'm going to read something because I gave this a lot of thought. And I want to read something that I think is probably best for me to read it, right? So I'm going to read off my screen here, okay? So why am I optimistic? I'm optimistic because I've watched people grow. Leaders find their voice. Teams move from dependency to interdependency. Businesses shift from fragile to resilient with character, culture, good government, and they mature. I've seen this repeatedly happen over and over again. And if we can keep doing this with people, helping people see clarity, grow bigger, reproduce themselves, think much bigger than just what they're building, will bring that sense of transformative to the world, regardless of what's happening in the government. I live in South Africa, where there is chaos in our government. But the country is beginning to thrive. It's beginning to change because people are saying, we are the difference. We make the difference. And that's why I'm optimistic. I'm optimistic because you guys are doing what you're doing. And the kingdom message is follow the kingdom principles is going to work. Why shouldn't I be optimistic?
I love that. By the way, I think you need to make that a book. I think that the optimism thing and what you shared with us earlier about that and what you're sharing here, so powerful. I think it's book time, Dave.
I just want to say thank you for stirring, because the more I talk about this, the more it lives within me, right? And it's just it's a wonderful opportunity just to keep talking about this stuff,
Yeah, we find the same thing, right? We love getting in rooms with people that they get it. They're not doing the same thing. In fact, that's great. But they're all like, okay, what would it look like if the kingdom came there? How do we do it? What would it look like if it happened there? Let's talk about that. And you just get excited having the conversation and seeing where it can go.
I love that. Yeah. Yeah.
One more question, I think, before we sign off, and it's a question we love to ask our guests, and that is, what's the best question you've never been asked?
I thought about this one as well. Here's my answer. Here's the answer. I have to think about this. Here's my question. Dave, who are you becoming through the work that you're building?
Great.
I want you to think about it. Who are you becoming through the work that you're building? Everyone asks me, what are you doing? What is the outcome of what you're doing? But if we're going to talk Kingdomonics, actually everything that we do is all for one purpose only, that we become conformed to the image of Christ. Everything is about who we are becoming, and the doing is just the mechanism to help us become that, right? But no one ever asks me that. No one ever asks, who are you becoming? And of course, the answer is, I want to become like Christ.
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
Yeah.
Love that.
That's the answer.
Well, Dave, I just want to say again, since connecting with you last fall and the couple of the masterclasses we've done together, and now the talk now about the course that's coming up, 6 weeks, a course, Scaling Your Business, 6 weeks of principles that you've talked about in the masterclasses, 6 weeks, and it's going to be amazing. Listen, if you're listening to this today, you should get a hold of us. We'll send you a one-pager info sheet on what that looks like. You should sign up like today. It's going to be amazing. So, Dave, just want to thank you again. How do people get a hold of you, Dave, if they want?
Best thing is go to LinkedIn. Just find Dave Betts or DB Lab. There it is. It looks like that.
Nice.
Yeah, best thing is LinkedIn. And then there's links to, you can WhatsApp me or message me directly or whatever you. Yeah, I'd love to hear from you all. Absolutely.
Again, a little more practical, guys, is that if you want to know scaling your business, if you go to the Kingdomize Global website, there's a link there which says, send me more information. Just click that. We'll send you stuff immediately. If you want to chat about it, we're happy to chat about it. But it's going to be absolutely phenomenal. In fact, I have this feeling that even after the first session, you will be levitating through the week. It's going to be absolutely ballistic.
It's bonkers.
Well, most people like to levitate, so I think that's a good pitch for this.
Yeah, I'll take levitation. We're gonna make it really practical, right? We're gonna make it really practical. I promise you, come on the course. We're gonna go real practical. You'll literally know how to build a business through the course. I promise you. We'll do it from the ground up. And we're going to celebrate the business you built. That's for sure.
Love that.
Beautiful.
Starts March the 4th, 2026. If you're listening to this after that, you missed it. No, I guarantee you, we'll probably do the course again. But if you're listening to it now when we first release this in February 2026, you should get a hold of us immediately. So guys, amazing, great today. Thank you for your time, Ian and Dave. What a pleasure to be spending this time with you. And thank you for listening, everyone. Thanks for listening, whether you've been driving or sitting in your office or in your bed, wherever you've been. Thanks for listening. And don't just listen. The goal of these our series, Solutionaries, is not just to listen, but to go, I probably should be a solutionary too. And so we want you to kind of dig into who you are, what gets you up in the morning that inspires you, and find a way to bring real answers from heaven, on earth as it is in heaven, his kingdom, to your world. If you don't know how to do it, get a hold of us. We'll chat with you. We'll coach you, consult. We'll find a way to make that work for you, because we want to see you bring the kingdom in your context. So globally, we Kingdomize. It's like Kingdomize globally, and it's a good name for a company. So thanks for being with us today. We'll see you next week on Kingdomize, the podcast. Thanks for joining us today on Kingdomize, the podcast. Let's keep the discussion going throughout the week on our socials or on our website, kingdomizeglobal.com. Contact us today to see how we can walk together to see more of God's kingdom in your city as it is in heaven.